I hate having to like think of a cold open.
Say something funny, Seth.
Uh,
I think we used to just be mean to each other, and I think we're doing less of that.
We're trying to be
Yeah, I think-
kinder.
But that makes it more difficult.
Yeah. If I can't be mean to you guys, I mean, is it even really worth having like a cold open?
That's such a good point. Okay, well, I think you did it. It's cold. We're open.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Overthinking Games, a podcast about what games can teach us. I'm hosting. I'm hosting today. My name's Seth.
Oh my God.
I feel like we should start
Hi.
over, but just keep going.
Wait.
Hi.
Nope, we can't go back.
Professionals.
Okay. I'm Dempsey. I sometimes play video games and then talk about them.
I'm Katie. I'm a special ed teacher, and I also play video games.
I'm hungover from a work trip. I'm eyeing a beer, and I know I don't want it, but I realize I'm so dehydrated and I'm hungry, it just looks like food now. So we'll see if I crack open this beer or not.
I'm not fully convinced Dempsey still isn't drunk. Dempsey is still drunk, and he's going to be drunk for the rest of his life. That's just the state you're perpetually in now.
The hangover will never cease. So sorry for you.
That's so scary. Don't say that.
Could you imagine?
To be fair, I did not
When
drive
you
it all
turn
today.
30, you'll understand.
I did not drive at all today. A coworker drove the whole way. So
There you go. Anyway,
We were worried.
so we've got a brainchild topic of mine here. I've been playing a lot of games recently, both physically, like real world games. Play a lot of Warhammer. I was playing some Magic the Gathering earlier this week. And I've been playing a lot of video games. Really awesome Dark Souls mod that came out that I want to talk about. Man, I feel like it's the only thing I played recently. We'll get to that. And I was thinking about, hey, like some of these games work really well if you digitize it. And you're like, hey, this is a physical game. Let's turn it into a digital game that like people can enjoy that way. And some of these games would not, and it just wouldn't make any sense. So like, what makes for a good like game that you can transfer? And then there's some ideas I want to connect off of that. But before we talk about that, we got to talk about what we've been playing this week. Anybody like to volunteer to go first? Anybody got anything interesting?
yes,
All right, Dempsey, go for it.
I have played nothing because I have been really busy. With
Okay.
work. So
That was Dempsey's quickest segment.
Compare that to last week where I think you went off for like 20, 25 minutes.
20 minutes, yeah. See, it all balances out to an average of like 5 to 10 minutes each, you know?
Katie, what have you been playing?
So first we don't normally talk about gaming news, and by the time this is released, it won't be news, but I just learned about the beta that Valve is doing, with Steam family sharing. So you can join somebody else's family and have access to their entire library, and they can have access to your library. And you could both be playing, like, I could be playing Baldur's Gate, and, you know, my brother could be playing something else, both from the same library. Whereas I think previously the family sharing was, like if somebody was using a game from your library, you couldn't use another game from the library.
Oh, they changed that?
Yes, they changed that. So
What?
you join each other's library, their family, and then, like, my brother has a lot of games, and so I was looking at his library yesterday. I was like, oh my God, I have Balatro now. I have, what else did he have that I wanted? So many things. I've gone brain dead now, but like hundreds of games. And they're all like, we have the same exact taste in games. So all of the games that I would have bought during the sale, I don't have to. And it's so exciting. It's like I get to go shopping from my closet every day. I'm so excited. So the first game that I played out of my brother's library was Balatro.
It's a
And
good
that's
game.
the card game that Seth's been talking about and Dempsey you were talking about. It's really a good game. I can see I can I can see why people compare it to Slay the Spire, because it definitely, I mean, it's a card game and it's a roguelike, but on top of that, it feels like there is probably a lot more strategy to it than I realize. And I bet some people, not me, are going to get extremely good at it, and that there's going to be like, you know, that level of excellence that people can get in Slay the Spire where they win all the time. But it's just been fun. And it's like poker and video games had a beautiful baby. And when you guys were talking about like the math side of things, I was a little bit afraid. I was like, I can't do math in my head. I teach English for a reason. And I was afraid that it was going to make it so that I wouldn't enjoy it as much. But it literally does all of the math for you. And I was never going to try counting cards, so we're fine. Like, it's good. There's no way that I'm going to be able to be like, there's 3 jacks left in the deck. The odds of me getting it in 3 rounds are blah, blah, blah. No, I'm just going to be like, oh, that's a pair. Sounds good. And I make my move and I move on, and it's just fun. So my fear was misplaced. It is very beginner friendly. So that's most of what I've been playing. I don't know. I'm still playing Baldur's Gate, and that's really good. That's like a slow slog, though. Like, you know when you play real D&D and you're like, we played for 4 hours and we haven't gotten anywhere.
Yeah, nothing happened.
What have we even done? That's how it feels when I play Baldur's Gate. I'm like, I've been playing for 2 hours. I am still looking for this lady. I'm still looking for Karlach. I know she's somewhere around here. I can see it on the map. I can't figure out how to get there yet. And then I'm like, okay, well, now it's time for bed. I haven't accomplished anything, but it was fun. So I'm just kind of moseying my way through. That's like my meadow walk game. I spent like 35 minutes trying to beat those freaking gnolls. Is that what they're called? The little hyena guys?
Yeah.
That's such a hard fight. Ridiculous. So then I'm like, maybe I shouldn't do that fight yet. Maybe it's too early. Anyway, yeah, that's what I've been playing. What have you been playing, Seth?
I'm glad you asked. I just realized I've been too busy playing real world games that I have not been playing a lot of video games. The main thing I was playing recently was a Dark Souls 3 mod that just released called Arch Thrones, which is super cool. It is I think, fairly long-term project at this point. They've been working on it for a few years, and they dropped a demo/beta that you could play. And it pretty much almost uses like Dark Souls 3 just as like an engine, and it's very inspired by all the other Dark Souls games, by a lot of the other FromSoft games in general. So it's very like the hub area is very much inspired by like Demon's Souls, the first one, the one that got like the PS5 remake. But then it has areas from Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2, and Dark Souls 3. Like, they took the maps from those games and put them into Dark Souls 3, which is super crazy. It also has a bunch of like custom maps, and like custom areas, and everything is like custom designed. It has a bunch of like custom boss fights. I mean, I've played a couple different Dark Souls 3 mods over time, and this one's like by far the most impressive. It's like crazy what modders can do with, it feels like, any game these days.
That's really interesting. Is it what you're using to like kind of get you between now and when the DLC for Elden Ring comes out?
There's not that much replayability in the demo right now. The main complaint I have about the demo, and I have this complaint about mods for games a lot of the times. The people who make mods for games are really into the game. And consequently, they make their mod for other people who are also really into the game. Like,
is it too hard?
Yes. Like, it's, instead of being people developing a Souls game for people who like Souls-likes, this is a this is like a Souls game designed for people who really like Dark Souls 3. Because like have you guys played any of the Dark Souls games? I know like Dempsey, you played Elden Ring.
Yeah, just Elden Ring. And like
I'm watching
the first 25% is Sekiro.
Okay.
Okay. I'm watching the Gamer's Drink play Dark Souls 3 right now. He's streaming it. So
Cool.
I'm familiar with it in theory.
That's fine. But so there's kind of this idea that like, hey, this game is fun, but it's very like achievable. And I think like Dark Souls 3 is especially very achievable. But, you know, with your experience, like Dempsey, you've mostly played through Elden Ring. Would you be ever interested in downloading a mod for Elden Ring?
No.
Especially if it's not just like one button. It's not like the Steam Workshop where you could just like, hey, let's add something. Like you actually have to like go download a launcher and then like specific software and like.
No.
Right.
No.
So like the only people who are going to be downloading a Dark Souls mod.
If I could like fight with a dildo or something like that, maybe I'd be into it. But
oh my God.
not like
Could you not say things like that when I'm drinking my carbonated beverage? That would be great.
Okay.
Not like story and challenge mods. Not like a serious mod.
Right. So, but that's the thing. So this is like a serious mod developed for other people who enjoy like Dark Souls 3. And it's just overtuned. Like I've played a lot of Souls games at this point. I've 100% like most of FromSoft's games. And I went into some of these boss fights and I'm like, this sucks. I'm like, this is not fun. The areas are really cool. It took me a second to like really figure everything out. I think I skipped a piece of dialogue or two I wasn't supposed to.
Oh no.
And then I was like, where am I going? What am I supposed to be doing right now? I think when you get to the hub area, there's like a pop-up on the screen that's like, hey, go to the center archstone. And I think I accidentally like hit the A button. So I saw it pop up on screen, but then I didn't have a chance to read it. So then I was like, where do I go? And I just went to all the like random archstones and I'm like, is this where I'm supposed to go? And then I got killed a bunch and I was like, this doesn't seem right. Seems way too hard. Until I found the one to go. But so it's long story short, it's fun. It's definitely like if you've played Dark Souls 3 and by the time even this comes out, like the demo should still be available. If you've played Dark Souls 3, it's worth checking out. If you're a fan of the Souls games, it's worth checking out. Elden Ring actually has a lot of the same like animation and rigging and models. The same like engine for creating that stuff that Dark Souls 3 does. So they backported enemies and models out of Elden Ring back into Dark Souls 3.
Oh, cool.
So you actually get to like fight some reskinned Elden Ring enemies, but like in Dark Souls 3, which is pretty cool.
That is cool.
Sometimes I'd be fighting an enemy and I'd be like, that's a Black Knife assassin. I recognize that. And that's just fun from the like turbo nerd perspective. Yeah.
Katie, did you have a comment?
Nerd.
Yeah, no, 100%. I know how it is.
Do you know, it makes me think of though, the Forgotten City, which was that Skyrim mod that became its own real game. Like, I think that's really cool. And I think like, didn't the modding community make a Half-Life game that's like a sequel?
Black
That's
Mesa.
like, yeah, that's basically like, I think considered canon, even though it was completely independent.
Black Mesa is the same. Oh no, there is story. There is a little bit of changes at the end of Black Mesa, actually. I was going to say, because Black Mesa is mostly like a one-for-one recreation of Half-Life 1, but that's not true. At the like in the last chapter, it deviates a little bit. So
see, I was just talking. I was just making stuff up. See?
No, see, I was on board with you,
watch me.
Katie. That's it's been a while since I looked at it, but I was familiar with the idea. Yeah, I'd love to do an episode on game modding in general sometime. There's a lot of games which I'm like, the longevity of this game exists because like its modding community exists.
Mm-hmm. I'm so intimidated by, so I've always grown up with consoles. Like my brother and my dad always had a PC, but I only ever used consoles. And so like now with my Steam Deck, and it's Linux, so I think it's different as well. With my Steam Deck, if I ever have to do anything in desktop mode, I'm like, I need YouTube videos, and then I need my brother to translate the YouTube video, and then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to see you in June. You can do it for me then. That's fine. I don't know. I don't know what to do. And it's like, I have an unwillingness to learn computer stuff because it seems like there's so much to know and I'm so behind. I would rather, like,
That's fair.
I don't know.
It's tough.
I've always been worried about mods making the Steam Deck run slower. If it's like another program that has to be open and running, that's always scared me away from modding my Steam Deck.
Don't they have like I have mods for Slay the Spire that you just get from the Steam Workshop, and you just click it, and then when you start the game,
It's a little
you
different.
say, yeah, that too, and then it's fine.
Oh, I'm gonna look that. Okay, so Steam.
not as-
Hold on, Steam has like an in-store way to install mods. I don't have to go
Free
on like
mods, yeah.
an
Correct.
itch.io like
No,
web page
correct.
that's like dead and has been
You play
redirected, like,
unmodded
Fine.
Slay the Spire?
what?
You play unmodded Slay the Spire?
Oh my
He plays
God.
Virgin Slay the Spire.
That's crazy.
Oh my God.
Dude, I've got so many. All right, we have to take a distraction from like the topic of this episode. I got to look at my Slay the Spire mod list. There's some
Wait,
bangers
I
on
only
there.
No,
have-
back to my question. Hold on. This is not just you talking about your Slay the Spire mods, but there's a way in Steam to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the Steam Workshop, and you would
What
go
is-
to it, and then there's going to be things that they say like, to add it, you have to add this and this as well, and then you add
It's like
those two other
dependencies.
things or whatever, and then yes, what you said, and you add those things, and then the next time you start your game from Steam mode, it'll say run with mods or whatever, and you say yes, and then like for me, my Slay the Spire brings up like a little old school looking like text box thing, and you have to click OK, and then it just runs just like normal. And that kind of modding I can get behind because it doesn't require me to know like where to put access things or how to route
do you have to
stuff,
go to
like-
desktop mode, or can you do that in Steam
No,
OS?
You can do it from the Steam mode.
That's okay. This has changed a lot. Okay. I have some YouTube videos to watch tonight. I guess.
Yes. We're the most tech savvy video game podcasters of all time.
I don't know about you guys, but
Okay. So
Yeah,
Seth, do
Seth's
you want
over
to talk
there
about
with his
your?
PC gamer
Okay. So
cred.
here's my Steam mods that you must get for Slay the Spire. Okay. We have some really good bangers. We have everything is the same, but you backflip on backflip. So if you play the backflip card, your character sprite does a backflip.
Okay, that's good.
There's a button
Important.
that you can press in the menu that just lets you like immediately start a new run, so you don't have to like abandon and then
Oh,
start.
that's-
It's just like a quick
That's
restart.
nice.
There's one, and this is probably my favorite mod, that it forces there to be 4 options at the start of your run instead of like if you lose in Act 1, it only gives you 2.
Yeah.
Mm.
So it just forces there to be 4 every time.
I didn't know that.
Okay.
See,
That's
these
a
are
great
patterns
one.
I don't recognize at all.
These seem pretty
Like,
useful.
That's a thing.
I have a mod that just gives the ironclad a cowboy hat.
It seems
Do you
appropriate.
do you have the Packmaster?
No. That's a character
like a
mod,
new
right?
Character. Yeah, it's a character. It's a whole brand new character with all of its own cards and stuff. My brother
played a
really
couple
likes
of
that
those.
one. I've played it a couple times.
Colored map is one of my favorite mods. It literally just like makes it so that the enemies are red, the campfires are yellow, like the question marks are blue. So it's just easier to like see what the
That's
map is
nice
at a glance.
Accessibility feature there.
Yeah. There's a mod that gives everything googly eyes.
Okay. That's cool.
And then another one of my favorites is rare cards sparkle. It just adds a little sparkle effect to your rare cards.
Oh.
Like a Pokemon.
Yeah.
Oh, I have one that has like added tons of relics to the game. I can't remember what it's called, but it added loads of relics to the game, so you get different relics, and some of them like do crazy stuff.
Yeah, see, that's fun. And the reason I don't really play with like character relic mods is I kind of like the vanilla experience of games.
You just want it to look cool.
Yeah, I just want it to kind of like look cool. So like, it's not true for all games, but for something like Slay the Spire, I'm like, there's enough content in here that I'm still not good enough at. That like I don't need to go adding like more content.
I know, but relics. I just love relics. I'm like a magpie. I'm like, ooh, relic. Shiny. I want.
Dempsey, do you cut these segments down or do you just leave this whole thing in?
Depends.
All right.
I think that was extremely interesting and should stay in the show.
Right. Just cut out everything that I just said except for me saying, do you cut all this out? And then people will have to like wonder what they missed out on.
Yeah. All right. So
anyway,
a topic.
So the topic at hand was inspired by the fact that I was playing some Warhammer earlier this week, and I was like, man, the only time I even know about like a digital version of Warhammer is Tabletop Simulator. So it's not even like a real game. Well, caveat, right? But it's, there's no like game version of Warhammer that you can actually sort of play. Like an RTS is close. They're kind of like simulating the same sort of thing. Like you could play StarCraft, but it doesn't feel the same as like tabletop Warhammer. So just to get us started on some of the ideas, I had a question for you guys, which is like, what's like a physical game that you think would make a good video game?
Blades in the Dark.
So what about it?
Like, okay, so Blades in the Dark is a tabletop role-playing game that is set in Duskwall, I think is what it's called. And it's set kind of in the back in times, like at the advent of like gas lanterns, and like it's kind of steampunky a little bit, but it's kind of Victorian-ish feeling, I think. And the lore of that game is that there's been some kind of calamity, and you live inside of this town, and it's constant dark. Like the sun has been obscured. And there are like spirits that can inhabit the world that can like damage you. And there's all of these different like factions that are all kind of living in this dark world. Like there's all kinds of like criminal factions, and when you're playing the game, you play as one of these different factions, and you do heists or crimes or assassinations or whatever type of crime your faction does. So like smuggling, different things like that. And it's just so much fun to play. And it's such a fun world to like mess around in, and you can pretty much make anything happen. It uses a dice mechanic similar to, well, exactly like Citizen Sleeper, where you have like complete failures, partial failure, partial success, like complete success. And so that even if you rolled like a 4 or a 5, that would be a partial success. And it just makes it really interesting because things can go right, but not completely. And it just means that the narrative can go like in really interesting ways. And so I think that would make it would be like Dishonored kind of meets dice mechanics. It would be so much fun.
Yeah, cool. And it seems like we could, I think with the success of Baldur's Gate 3, I wouldn't be surprised if sometime in the next couple of years we get some, I don't want to call it necessarily like a copycat game, but we see some maybe like other RPG game makers, might delve into the space a bit. So it's kind of cool.
Well, we've got like Disco Elysium, Citizen Sleeper, Pentiment, and then Baldur's Gate, of course, being like the biggest of those. Like those are just games that I've played that are utilizing that kind of a dice mechanic from tabletop gaming. And it's so much fun.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking even more strictly in terms of like Baldur's Gate 3 is a fairly like faithful adaptation of like the 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons rule set. So it'd be cool to almost see something like Blades in the Dark, or what's the other? Am I thinking about Blades in the Dark as kind of like cyberpunky? There's like a cyberpunky like tabletop RPG.
There is a cyberpunk tabletop RPG, I think.
I feel like people are always talking about that.
One that comes to mind is so I just listened to, this is what I was talking about before the show. I listened to Lord to Death's most recent episode on The Witcher. And it was really interesting to me because The Witcher started out as short stories, followed after 14 years by a novel, and then was made into tabletop game, and then was made into the Witcher video game, and then they made the TV show. And so it's really interesting to see like that specific story has been created into a lot of different mediums from the original source work, and it kind of works. I haven't played the tabletop game, so I don't know, but it kind of works across the board, which is interesting to me. But I think it kind of follows the same, like it has the same things that make D&D fun, which is like that really fantastical world with a lot of like lore and specific sort of mechanics, I guess you could say, even in the books, that are fun to play with.
Cool. Yeah, and the game that I was thinking of is called Shadowrun.
Oh, I remember Shadowrun.
Yeah. I think there's other games that are sort of faves to add at this point, but whatever. Dempsey, you got any good examples of games you think would make for good like video games that didn't start as one?
I do not play interesting board games.
Okay.
Do you play boring ones?
I have played Monopoly and Scrabble.
Okay.
And Connect 4. The only role-playing game I've ever played is D&D. And so, yeah, I just do not have the experience to suggest a more interesting board game. I know that, like, there's that bird game that I think
Wingspan?
Yeah, Wingspan. That's an adaptation of a board game that people say is really good. But I have not played Wingspan, so yeah, I don't know.
I tell you what, if they made Citizen Sleeper into a tabletop game, I wonder if they have, because man, I would play the heck out of that.
Well, so that's actually something else I want to have a conversation about as part of this. So my follow-up question is, do you think there's a video game that you played where you're like, I don't think they could ever do this as like a board game or like as a tabletop RPG, or you're like, this would just be like an ass game if they tried to turn it into like a physical game? And the main thing I'm going to bring to the front is I think most roguelites do not transfer well into tabletop games. And I say that as somebody who owns the Binding of Isaac card game, which, I'll be honest, is a great game. Would I know it was based off of a roguelite? No. It plays more like Magic the Gathering Commander, but like a deck builder Commander game, which is fun in its own right, but like it's not super themed to... It's themed to Isaac, but like the gameplay doesn't resemble the game. Think smartly again. Slay the Spire is coming out with a board game, like board game card game. Which
that's interesting.
Yeah, it seems cool, but it's also a little overpriced. I'll probably play it once its Kickstarter gets shipped, but
it seems like it would be cumbersome. So I think what makes it challenging, like I think you can take a board game and turn it into a video game because you can add things and add to the experience. But if you're taking a video game and trying to kind of reverse it into a board game, I feel like you would miss the more complex moving parts that you're able to interact with
totally
in the game form.
You guys have thoughts about games
that would be moved into board games?
No, games that like a video game that you're like, man, this would not work other than in its existing format as like a video game.
Oh, I see. Yes. Yeah. No. Okay. Yeah. That's what we were saying. That's what I thought. Okay. Sorry. I got confused. I think that's a lot of games though, because like I said, like if you try to take Slay the Spire and make it into a card game, I feel like you're going to become encumbered by, like, if they have cards that are going to represent relics or they have cards that are going to represent potions and things like that, it seems like it could become kind of cumbersome to keep track of all of it, but maybe not. Maybe they'd make it work.
Yeah, so maybe
I think any kind of shooter game wouldn't make a good board game. Like a Call of Duty shooter or like any of those like sort of linear shooting based games. There's not that much interactivity, especially if you want it to be a game that you can play with other people.
Yeah, so let's expand the scope of the question to like what is it that you think about video games that makes it that like you couldn't what is it about video games that they have to be done digitally? So we had this question a few weeks back on like what is it that indies can do that AAA games can't? And this week I'm almost thinking what is it about like what can video games do that like physical games can't do?
I think that they can have multiple complex systems all working together without requiring too much management from the player. Like you can have these complex systems that are, you know, maybe overlapping or that affect each other. But because it's digital, they have like the coding or whatever processes that allow it to manage itself. You just put in the input and it does all of the figuring. But if you were playing physically, like a board game, you would have to do all of that figuring yourself. And I think that it would either make the process far too effortful, I guess, or they'd have to dumb it down so much that you would lose kind of the essence of that mechanic that you liked in the video game.
Yeah, I can definitely see what you're saying. We talked about it earlier today with like Balatro, right? Like my high record hand in Balatro was like 300 million or something ridiculous.
Holy cow.
But like a lot of that comes from, okay, we have an insanely high like base malt and base chip number. And then the cards in my hand, each of them has like a 1/3 chance of doubling my malt. And the card triggers 2 or 3 times depending on the card value. So like doing that math by hand would be impossible. Whereas if you just let the computer do it, you know, it does it in seconds. Or the other thing coming to mind is like JRPGs tend to do this thing where your character, by the time you're like halfway through the game, each of their attacks does like 19 million damage. And you're like, oh my God, big numbers. And then you play like D&D and it's like, I swing my sword and it does 7 damage. Just so that they don't have to like force you to do a bunch of math in person. The converse side of that is I was playing some Magic the Gathering earlier this week and I played a card and we kind of just said that I win the game because I think actually resolving the card would involve calculus. And we decided that we didn't want to do that. And we were like, I think I win if I play this. So like, we'll just call the game. Dempsey, do you have thoughts on like, what is it about digital games that make it that you can do that you wouldn't be able to do with the physical game?
Yeah, I think I'm afraid to answer because I'm going to say everything that a video game does. Like you can't, but like, I don't know if you can have like a dialogue system in a board game or like be told like a narrative like in a board game. Like I understand like there's like systemic narratives that like, but like I don't know if I can have like in Disco Elysium, if that was a role-playing game, like there's role-playing games where you have like a GM and they make the story and you can kind of use the mechanics to tell whatever story you want, like in D&D. And so I guess with that kind of role-playing game, you can have a narrative, but like, I don't know if board games, you can have like a character arc.
I feel like you kind of can, but it would be challenging and it would require a lot of if character blah blah blah, turn to page 75.
Yeah. Have you guys ever played
It would be like a physical dialogue tree of all of the dialogue options in Disco Elysium.
That's kind
And
of
that
funny.
would be like
so
a
cumbersome.
that would be insane. And I think that would be like a novelty, but I don't know if that would be.
Have you guys ever played Gloomhaven or ever heard of Gloomhaven?
I've heard of Gloomhaven, but it was too expensive for me, so I've never played it or bought
Yeah,
it.
Gloomhaven is kind of like this. I think like Gloomhaven, by my understanding, and somebody's going to get pissed off by me talking about it right now. But my understanding is like Gloomhaven is like sort of a board game tabletop RPG. Like it's a role-playing board game that I think also has like some emergent story elements as part of like how the gameplay works. So it's a game that I definitely have been meaning to check out, but yeah, it's got a pretty hefty price tag.
So there's that element that like the game, but it's not the game giving you a story. It's and like, Gloomhaven, I can't speak to Gloomhaven, but
yeah.
for most things, it's like the DM is using, or the GM, if it's not D&D, is using the mechanics as a system to tell a game, and then it's more like oral storytelling, or collaborative improv, like and it turns into a dramatic improv, which is awesome. Like I love that.
Yeah, it's cool.
But it's definitely not like it's not the same as a video game. And then like the physics of a video game can never be replicated. Like Celeste, there's no way to make anything like that in a board game. Or like I would even say like Dark Souls, like I understand there is a Dark Souls board game, but like you can't do those mechanics physically unless you're LARPing.
Imagine if they made like some kind of like vertical pinball tower or something, like a pinball game that's like vertical, and it's like themed on Celeste, and you have to hit like strawberries as you go to get extra points. And the goal of the game is to like get all the way to the very top of the tower. Wouldn't that be fun?
Honestly, just a Celeste pinball machine sounds like it would go kind of crazy.
I think that would be so cool.
I think I would consider pinball almost a video game, though, which might be an insane take.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I guess.
But
and so is baseball. You're so right.
Not baseball. I think pinball is not very far removed from being a video game.
I can see where you're coming from.
Baseball is to Call of Duty, as pinball is to platformers.
I don't think that's correct. I don't think that's an analogy that makes any sense.
But you can make a baseball video game.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty popular one too.
But yeah, I think most of what I want out of my video game experience, I don't know if I am looking for that when I sit down to role play with friends. Role playing with friends, I am looking for like improv, like dramatic improv and storytelling is mostly what I'm looking for. Like the social element, I'm looking for eating like good bread and someone made homemade cheese and someone else brings like, whatever. And then we all eat and tell a story together. And but I have not experienced enough outside of that. And I also do not use D&D well. And I have been told that there are other systems of role playing that better fit what I want, which I think is very interesting to me. Like, and I know this because I've played with people who really love D&D, like the mechanics of D&D, and they do not like how I DM because they're like, I want to do stuff.
Yeah, I know what they're talking about.
Like space. Like I find it very hard to DM with space in mind. I like combat. I like having vibes and doing theater of the mind, where like you kind of have a like.
I do a sick backflip and then I jump down and I'm
because a lot of people will be like, exactly how many feet I am away from this wall, because you can move 30 feet, and so if you're 25 feet, that's different than being 19 feet away from a wall. And
I never played that way either.
And that's insane. like,
And like,
either
I don't
you
keep
can make
track
it
of my
Yeah.
resources.
Yeah, and because in college my DM did not play that way. I would be like, "Can I make it to the wall?" And then it would be like, "You can make it to the wall, but you're going to take a disadvantage on your action because it's further than it's supposed to be or whatever." And so it would be more like these narrative consequences rather than like mathematical consequences. But I hear that there are other role-playing systems that are built to reward narrative consequences more than D&D, which is basically a math game. So, I mean, even in my role-playing experience is very, like, I just play D&D because everyone knows that, and it's easy to get people to buy in really quick. So, but I do not have an in-depth knowledge of board games or role-playing games.
I think the Powered by the Apocalypse tabletop games, like they have tons of different ones.
You'd enjoy those.
And
Dempsey.
those are really good for more narrative. I think that's a good point, though, what you're saying, though, about the community of it and like coming together with people to play. That's the reason that I don't play very much. Like I have so many board games and I almost never play them because nobody wants to at my house. And like calling you out, honey. No, I'm just kidding. He does play with me. It's fine. But there's like a whole thing about like you have to have somebody to play with you, and if you're playing something narrative, like everybody has to be really all in, or else it's like awkward and boring and weird.
Yeah. Playing a board game with someone who does not want to be there is horrific. I agree.
Yep.
It can make it very awkward, and it can make it so that you feel like you're having a tea party with you and the DM, or like with the one other player who's super into it, and then you've got your other player who's like kind of shy maybe, or just is not as into it, and you're like, oh, this is kind of So the nice thing about a narrative-based video game is I don't need anybody to do that with me. I can just interact with that story one-on-one. But at the same time, sometimes it's kind of sad to have to interact with it by yourself. And there's that really, there's like a real feeling of joy to create that story with other people. So I think they're just really different. Depends on what you're after.
And I think it's interesting because I don't play multiplayer games. So like if I am after like a community or camaraderie, I would much rather play D&D because that's what I'm used to. But I would much rather play a role-playing game in real life that's not on the computer if I am looking for community. Like I don't play like Helldivers seems like a really cool game that people are really enjoying. And a lot of what they're talking about is like the community aspect of it's you and a bunch of strangers all against this horde. And that's not what I'm looking for in video games. Like I understand why it's beautiful and why people find that to be a meaningful experience and how that's really fun. But I am very rarely looking for community experiences when I sit down and play a video game. I would much rather do other activities. And I play a lot of video games, but I would much rather do other activities with my friends, even gaming wise, like playing a party game or something like that.
That's funny. I'm sort of opposite. I use video games when I'm seeking connection or community. I will usually turn to video games, whether it's that I'm going to go online and play with some friends, or that I'm going to play, like my mom and I play Warzone together. So that's like a big social thing for me that fills a lot of my, like, she's my best friend. We hang out together. I'm good now. I've had my socialization, for the evening or whatever. But I also really love like watching other people play games and being able to talk about it. Or like my husband and I are playing The Witcher 3 together, and we take turns. We each do a quest and then we take turns. And it's so much fun because we get to like each have our own approach to the game and get to see how the other person handles things and get to make like dialogue decisions together and kind of move through the story together and have like this shared adventure. And I think because I'm not really an outdoorsy person, like I don't go outside and have adventures with people. And so that like scratches my adventure itch to have adventures with people that I like without having to generate the whole story. Because when we played Blades, it was super fun, but I was the GM, and that's a lot of work, man.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is a lot of work. I can't do this right now, and it took way too much mental energy, but I can just hop onto Witcher 3 with my husband and we can play for a couple hours and share this cool, fantastical story.
Yeah, and I think like looking at Baldur's Gate 3 like is a pretty clear proxy. I think like it really clears a lot of things up of what I want out of a video game versus because like the it's a pretty faithful adaptation of a role playing game, D&D 5th Ed. And so like when I play D&D 5th Ed, it doesn't I don't like when I play Baldur's Gate, I do want the math. And I do want exactly how far I am away, and I do want the mechanics, and I care a lot less about the narrative. Even though I think the narrative is really good and beautiful, like on my third playthrough, it does like I know what's going to happen to Karlach. It's not as meaningful. I'll do things out of curiosity, but it's not the same. I'm not looking for that narrative catharsis. I am looking to like let's see how well I can synergize, these abilities.
Seth.
And so yeah, I think that's a pretty interesting proxy. I do have this fantasy that I am 45 with like a wife and we have board game. We're like the board game couple, I think is a fantasy that I have. Have friends over to play board games. So like there's an appeal to that. And there's like, I think that fits into like this idea of domestic bliss, like people who play really intense, specific board games that like it feels so cozy and socially soft, and so like
because of like that channeled and shared focus of energy because it does take so much energy and like you have to really like these games to play them.
Yeah.
So I think that's I get that like a shared passion that you have together. It is sweet.
So the sort of follow-up question here is because we each sort of have our own little specialties, and I think there's a little bit to be said about what we do personally, and I think the sort of digital to physical relationship between some of those things. So Dempsey, we'll put you on the spot first. So because you've been buying a bunch of records. So what is it that you like about records, like literally physical music media over like digital music media?
So I am looking for a couple things when I buy a record. First of all, it functions as a poster for a thing I like. Like just the fact that it's a large graphic that represents something that brings me joy makes me very happy. So that like it's literally just decoration. And it's cool because it's like a functional decoration rather than like a Funko Pop or just like an actual poster. Like, there's some functionality into it. I really like I can put a record on and it's kind of curated and like, it's not a playlist on shuffle. It is an album set out in a specific way. It goes a specific amount of time. I'm not like going to get an email pop up or whatever. And so
no ads.
Yeah, no ads. The single use function and it makes it kind of feel like an event. Like I'll throw a record on and listen to it while I cook a meal. And for some reason that's just a really satisfying experience and it makes it feel like an event when I cook then or when I'm washing the dishes or whatever and I have a vinyl on versus not. And so there's that element of it. I think it's also cool that it's a way to show people what things mean to me. And so if I have a friend come over and I want to tell them how much I love Celeste, I can also like show them this vinyl that I got and put it on. And that's a way for me to communicate how enthusiastic I am about this thing. So that's another thing that it does. I also think I was thinking about like analog, like things that I do regularly. Like, so I love hiking. It's warming up. My All Trails app, I'm like getting all the hiking locations for this spring or whatever. I also love doing that in a video game. Skyrim, hiking simulator mostly. I just want to walk in the woods. A short hike, one of my favorite video games ever made. Like a lot of the things that I do, I guess regularly in my regular life that are mundane, like hiking, I absolutely want to do that in a video game too, which I think is kind of funny. But and I think vinyls, I almost like more than owning the game physically. So like I would rather have a vinyl of the Celeste soundtrack than like a physical Switch copy of Celeste. Because I don't know, I just feel like the game is like available to me kind of like the air I breathe on these digital storefronts or whatever. And like if it really ever gets taken down for good, I don't even know with day one patches and things like that if this physical copy will function, honestly. Like I just had my Steam Deck update like 16 of my games because I haven't really opened it for the last week.
Oh, I need
I'm like,
to do that.
Games are so living and breathing online that if I buy like a physical copy of Undertale, like I actually don't know how functional that is without the updates. So, and the vinyls just, and because they're like limited and there's like a rarity aspect, like a lot of people like the game Florence, not a lot of people have the vinyl. And that makes me special.
And that's pretty cool.
And that's pretty cool. So there's that element as well. So yeah, I think there's a lot of layers to it. What about you, Katie?
So I was thinking about the like digital versus physical games as well. And something that I've come to realize, like being slightly older than you whippersnappers, maybe I have a different perspective. Maybe I don't. But kind of looking at the rise and fall of like platforms, like for social media, like with the way that TikTok is being litigated right now, like maybe that's the wrong word, but like that bill's been passed that, you know, TikTok will be shut down. And it's like, if that happens, all of the stuff that people have made is just gone, right? And
whoa, yeah.
Yeah, it's just gone. Like, and we saw that with like MySpace. MySpace is no more. We saw it with Twitter. It's X now or whatever. And so like everything that's in that digital space is really transient. And like none of the platforms that we're on now are probably going to be around in 15, 20 years. It'll be different things. And when we look at gaming, we see that with like older online stores, like the what was recently closed, the PSP or something? PS3? Yeah, the PS3 store gets closed down. All of those games are now, you can't get them unless they've been brought to the PS4 or the PS5 store. And what I've really come to realize is that any kind of game, like you said, Dempsey, that has like day one patches or any kind of online update to keep it functional as software changes or as hardware changes, we don't actually own those games. We've paid for the right to borrow them. And so I think that there's that feeling of wanting physical because it feels like it's going to protect the game that you would like to own and be able to keep forever. But with the way that everything is interweaved, like we just don't own anything anymore.
Yeah, I mean, so Katie, the sort of focused idea I wanted to give to you, just in terms of like the physical digital media thing, because you're a literature teacher. So what's your thoughts on the like physical digital difference on something like a physical book versus an ebook? Like what can an ebook do that like a physical book can't do?
Okay. Well, I like both. If I am actually going to read, I'm more likely going to read a book, a physical book. I think what an ebook can do that obviously a physical book can't do is you can take it anywhere. You can read it in the dark. You can read it, you know, when you're waiting at the DMV. Like, it's extremely convenient. And you can get just about anything, like between like the Libby app and like Kindle, Audible, well, not Audible, but like I use Everand, which used to be called Scribed, and that's a book subscription service that you can get ebooks and audiobooks. So like the library of the world is at our fingertips when you are willing to read ebooks. And that's an incredibly powerful thing. I've even found like that I can get all of the like peer-reviewed journal articles and stuff that I need for my master's research topic. I can just get it for free. Like, it was not that way when I was first going to college. you know, what, 12, 14 years ago. Like, it just wasn't that way. You had to go to the college library. You had to use the computer at the college library. And that was the only way that you could get all of the like peer-reviewed journal articles. And now it's just everything's available, which is awesome and super overwhelming. So I think people go on about like, oh, I love the feel of a book. I love the smell of a book. That's probably true. And that's probably true. Like, probably a lot of people really feel that way. I don't really feel that way. But what I do like about a physical book is that it forces me to put away distraction and put away the option for other things and be solely focused on what I have in front of me. And I think that that is a respite in the world right now where everything is always available and always kind of tempting. Maybe this would be better. Maybe that would be more interesting. So that's my soapbox on that.
No, yeah, and I mean, I think it again, at the larger point of like, some things are better done physically, and I think some things are better done digitally. And I think it's one of the things that's so cool about like video games as a media is, to Dempsey's point, that like there's a lot that you can really only do in a video game that we didn't used to be able to do before. Like, there's so many like game experiences that cannot be experienced in like a physical game sense and really have to be experienced in a digital sense. Would you consider like
laser tag a physical version of Call of Duty or paintball?
Yeah, actually, I started playing paintball. I started playing paintball because I was like, ooh, I could have a real life adventure where I don't get killed. And then I tried my one time I played woods ball, which is paintball in the woods, and I tried to do a running slide because I can do that in Call of Duty. And do you know what happens when you do a running slide wearing boots? That really good tread on your shoes grabs the ground and you fucking face plant.
Don't cut that out of Dempsey. Leave that one in. So on that note, but so no, I think it's actually like a good point. I think like, especially like multiplayer Call of Duty is obviously not based on like being in like a real war zone. And I think it's really supposed to emulate like the experience of like paintball or airsoft way more than it is any sort of like actual combat scenario. And I've never thought about that before, but I think that's a really intelligent connection. But
because I'm thinking like you're like because like and there's so many psychotic things I want to say right now. Like a platformer, it's just like an obstacle course. Like I can never do Celeste in real life, but I can go. But like we have a ninja training thing, like a gym that has like a bunch of like obstacle course things that you can climb on, and that feels like a pretty good proxy to a platformer.
Yes. I started going to the gym and doing like obstacle course training and like learning how to do, like I did Spartan races and stuff at one stage of my life because I played Lara Croft, the reboot that they did. And I was like, you need to be able to do a pull-up to save your life. Look how many times Lara has to do a pull-up to save her life. She would die without upper body strength. I'm going to the gym. And it like launched a huge change in my life. Honestly, like I went from being completely like sedentary to being like activity is just part of life now. Thank you, Lara Croft.
Anyways, sorry, I keep interrupting you.
No, it's good. Listen, I'm usually the one interrupting people.
Anyways, go ahead.
So my point, and where this another one of these places where the idea originally stemmed from me, because I teach Earth and Space Science. Earth and Space Science is very different than some of the other sciences, because Earth and Space is a very like observational science, and it doesn't follow the scientific method in a lot of the same ways that the other sciences do, because experimentation is very hard in Earth and Space Science, because I can't go moving the planets around. So like, whereas if you're studying biology and cells and stuff, you can physically like take cells, move them around, inject them with things, see what happens if you put them in a new environment. Like I can't go moving the planets around. Or
Sure.
like environmental science, like you're looking at like global effects and the results. Like I could do small scale tests and show that like, yeah, carbon dioxide causes the greenhouse effect. But when we're talking about like internationally scaled issues, it starts to become a problem. And this comes up for me all the time. Like I talk about plate tectonics. And, we can do like a little lab where we take graham crackers and like run them into each other to simulate the different,
Sure.
like, but it's not a very like authentic science experience. So that's a challenge. And the way that we get around that, or the way that I've gotten around that, is I have to do digital labs. Like we could do a lab where we like make a cloud in a bottle or something, but to actually see like the formation of those clouds in the atmosphere, like we have to do a digital lab for it. And Earth and space science lends itself to like those physical labs, those digital labs way better, because I can just do things that I can't do in person. The scale is too big. And the other sciences don't tend to have these problems. That comes up.
Makes sense. I never thought of that.
Dempsey, are you thinking about something?
No, I was just like in my like physics course and things like that. Like a lot of high school level physics, you can do experiments.
Yeah, and it's not really until you start talking about like planetary dynamics that like you really have to refer to like simulations.
That makes sense.
And this is not to become too much of an education podcast, but like one of the things that's happening in science across the board is we're moving more towards like phenomenon based science.
I heard this yesterday. I'd never heard it before. It's funny that you're saying it now. What does that mean?
So phenomenon-based science is like a lot of science right now would be like, I'm going to teach about gravity. We might learn a little bit about like Isaac Newton. We might learn, I might give you the equation for gravity, and we're going to do like a couple of practice problems. And then maybe there's going to be like a couple application problems. And then, like we're running a lot of numbers, we might do a lab experiment where like we drop something and we time it, and then we can use it to like calculate gravity, whatever. Something like a phenomenon-based science would be like looking at a sort of like real world situation or like a real world experiment with data, and then like taking a look at those things. And that's like your phenomenon is like a thing that actually happens out in the real universe and is not like a contrived science thing. And then relying on like that data to like come to science conclusions.
So would it be like looking at this like phenomenon you're saying, and then because gravity is involved in it, you teach them about gravity to understand the phenomenon?
Yes, in a way. And a lot of phenomenon-based science like cascades into itself. So let's say like we look at a reaction of like a metal violently combusting. Mm-hmm. There's a lot that goes into that. Like we have to understand like atomic structure and like how electrons work. And then like, why does this thing violently explode? Like we have to talk about like the energy, the bond energy, and like how that contributes to like chemical reactions. Like exothermic versus endothermic, like ideas kind of just naturally cascade into each other. If we say like, how do we explain this thing that we're seeing? And we just end up having to be like, once you learn something, you're like, okay, we loop back to the starting thing and we're like, can we fully explain this? No. Okay, what else do we think we need to know to fully explain this? And you just like keep cascading.
So how does that curriculum work? Like for planning?
This is Katie, we'll have this conversation later. Because this is what I did for like my student teaching. But anyway.
I also have a lot of questions about
I'm so
this.
curious.
Okay,
Hey, it's an educational video game podcast. We can talk about this.
Because I'm like, well, like you're never going to get a student to prove an atom exists because
yes. So
that lab equipment is just too expensive, and
right.
so like you have to contrive, and they have to trust data that they cannot produce themselves.
That is right? Correct. So it does involve some aspect of like, hey, this person did do this experiment, but like here's what the data from their experiment looks like. Because like science followed the same natural conclusion, right? So like somebody did an experiment to prove the fact that like atoms are mostly empty space. While I do not have like an alpha particle emitter, I can describe the experimental setup to the students, and then we can like logic our way through, and then students can essentially like ask questions that I can answer because I know what happened in the experiment.
Sure.
And then we can use that information to like work students towards ideas.
You should ask for an alpha particle emitter.
Yeah, it's a little more complicated than that.
So this is so interesting because I know we're at time, but just one more thing real quick.
Dempsey can edit this.
As I'm doing my my capstone research project, it's about like how background knowledge and vocabulary impact reading comprehension. And what I've been learning is like a lot of the times how we'll teach things, like in English class, we'll teach like, this is a theme. This is how you identify a theme. This is a main idea. This is how you identify a main idea. Like, this is figurative language. This is a simile. Like, we teach it almost like a laundry list a little bit, like, and we'll pick texts that we can use to teach the thing that we're teaching, like theme or whatever. And what I'm learning from like a bunch of different research that I've been reading is that it could be better to do thematic units that are talking about maybe a certain like subject matter, or, you know, like maybe the theme is like ancient Egypt, and you learn about, like, you read nonfiction text about ancient Egypt, and you read fiction books that are set in ancient Egypt, and, you know, all these things. But as you're reading these books, which are all building background knowledge on a single sort of topic or a bunch of topics, you use things like identifying theme as part of understanding the story that you're reading, rather than teaching theme via a specific story. And it kind of sounds like the same thing almost. Like, all of this stuff exists in bodies of work that are out there in the world. And as we read these bodies of work, we're going to introduce and teach these skills so that the kids can engage with those bodies of work more fully.
Yeah. And when I was, so this is me, this is so interesting. So in my undergrad, I talked about, or I looked at teaching literacy via trying to understand emotional responses. So this story makes me feel this way. Why does the story make me feel this way? And so whether that's like, it is satisfying to rhyme. Let's look at what is satisfying about rhyme and why it makes me feel this way. Or like, you know, the theme, like let's say it's a kid's book about death or whatever, and you'll read it and the kid will have an emotional reaction if it's a good piece of literature. And then you can be like, why is this making us sad? And that's a conversation to talk about theme. Which it sounds almost a little bit like phenomenon, like you have this phenomenon, which is the emotional response, and then you deconstruct like, how did we get to that phenomenon?
Mm-hmm. Or like the fact that plot is naturally occurring almost in literature. It just is a thing that exists.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a little bit of the point that I was just originally making about Earth and Space is that I just like looping back around. Don't mind me. It's just that, so like actually Earth and Space is like a tough subject area for phenomenon-based things. And I've noticed over time, like you look for phenomenon-based sources and there's a lot for life sciences and physics, and then they get to Earth and Space and they're like, because like there's a lot of like cool astronomy phenomenons, but the way that we learn about them is like we look at them and then we do like a lot of math to try and like figure out what's going on.
You can like download the data from NASA and like do like the most
Here you go, kids.
like the most computational intensive calculations in the history of humanity to learn about a black hole. Like
that's what would happen if you tried to make most video games into tabletop games. All of a sudden, we downloaded all of NASA's math, and it's not fun anymore.
Yeah, a really great example of this, and this is just this is a classic astronomy example. So, like, you know, the way that we learned that there's other galaxies, from our own, the way that we learned that anything else even existed out there, was Hubble, the dude from whom the Hubble telescope is named after, knew that there was these things called pulsar stars that emit light at a very specific brightness at very specific intervals. And he essentially found one of these stars that was really far away and had to do a bunch of math to realize that it was really far away. And that's just like, hey, the fact that there's other galaxies it's just like a math problem. So, like, it wasn't like some experiment somebody ran. It's just like they just had to look at a telescope and be like, that doesn't seem right. And then do like a bunch of math to prove that like it's actually much further away than we thought it was.
That was wild.
That is crazy.
So, what about this space bullshit? It seems fishy to me.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, pretty much. My favorite story I like to tell students is that like literally the universe went from like Milky Way sized to like literally infinitely large in the span of a single night, which is not like technically true, but is also a fun way to represent that idea.
Mm-hmm. No wonder we all have existential dread. It's fine.
No, yeah, I purposely do it to my students. Inciting existential dread in high schoolers is like pretty fun. It's actually fairly good when you get them thinking about that. I mean, we're way past time here, but
I know.
One of my other favorite ones for students is I like to tell them that there's only two possibilities, because this is a binary truth. Either we are the only intelligent life in the entire universe, or we are not the only intelligent life in the entire universe. Both of those have very large implications. And one of those two things has to be true. They both cannot be true. They both cannot be false. One of those things has to be true and the other one has to be false. Either we are the only intelligent thing in the entire universe, and that sucks. Or we're not the only intelligent thing in the entire universe, and that kind of also sucks.
Terrifying. Yes, agreed.
Currently, we're kind of in the middle because we don't know, but we do know that it has to be one of those two things, and I think we're just kind of all
narrowed.
Yeah, we've narrowed it down to that. I think we're all kind of floating on like we don't have to worry about this right now, so like we're gonna put that off.
Our planet's not gonna last long enough for this to be an issue. It's fine.
Yeah. So.
All right.
Anyway, now that we're way over
On
time.
that note, it's not so bad. Thank you so much for listening. This has been Overthinking Games, a podcast about what video games can teach us. Thank you so much for joining us and listening to us wander on about space science and literature and all of the things that we have wandered on about. We appreciate you. If you would leave us a review, that would be amazing. You can also find us on TikTok. We're on Instagram. In case TikTok goes away, you are welcome to find us on Instagram. We have a YouTube channel. We're everywhere. So check us out. And if you have any thoughts, you can email us. Our email is in the show notes. We would love to hear from you. Bye.
Rip TikTok.
All right.